him the Scout Kennedy because he has the knowledge for you. So let's get him in here.
Well, I appreciate you having me in. You said 12:10, but I don't like to be late.
Yeah. That's what I like to see right there. Appreciate you, man. So let everybody know where they can find you at and let people know how long you've been doing this as a Falcons reporter and a draft guru.
Well, so I've been doing this a long time through different methods, mainstream media, whatnot. A long time, longer than I care to admit, actually, Terry. But you can find me at Scout Kennedy. The best way to find me, though, all this work I'm doing is my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scott Kennedy. Nice and easy. I'll drop that in the chat or have Terry do it before too long. Otherwise, if I do it, it'll just go to my channels. We already know that. So we'll swap those out. Been looking forward to doing this and meeting some new Falcons fans.
Appreciate you, Scott. So let's get into it, man. I know you've been at training camp. I don't know if you saw day 7 yesterday, but how are you feeling? Like, do you feel like the Falcons have a chance to get to the next level? I mean, we've been 7-10 or 7-9 for a couple of years, and this is the 3rd year for Arthur Smith to finally get his pieces. We've been able to spend a bunch of money with Terry. Terry didn't wait. He went ahead and spent the dividends as soon as he got it to get the best players available. So how are you feeling about Falcons training camp so far?
Well, when I went there, the first thing I noticed was like, man, there's a lot of players that we used to consider starters in Atlanta that are on second team now. The joke I've used for 2 years now is like Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith are putting a team together based off the waiver wire of the Chicago Bears and Tennessee Titans because the poverty franchise has been broke from the bad contracts that Tom Dimitroff left them. So you can see they've drafted. It might not be the only team, but how many other teams in the NFL will line up with 11 starters that they've drafted? Because unless I'm counting wrong, every single player on the Atlanta Falcons starting offense that we consider starters has been drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. So they've built an offense, and then they went out there and they accelerated the process and they've bought a defense. Mm-hmm. The players that you see on the defensive line in the secondary are just a different level than what Dean Pease had to work with out there. So now we're going, Terry. The big question is, can you go from a group of guys who are cast-offs and overachieve to, hey, there's some legit professionals out there now. Can you get those guys all rowing in the same direction and go from 7-10 and flip that to 10-7 or better?
Well, I definitely think so, based on how the defense looks now. Like you said, it was a lot of backups. Jalen Hawkins is going to look a lot better in that 2 role compared to actually being a starting strong safety. Then he has Jesse Bates come in. You spend $64 million on this guy 4 years because he's a showstopper. He knows how to read the field. He knows how to get the players lined up. The eye of the sky, Mr. Ed Reed, Mr. Troy Polamalu, those type of safeties that we've seen. Even Sean Taylor to an extent. These top 10, top 15 type
Eric
safeties.
Harris, Jesse Bates. I mean, like I said, it's just it's a different level out there. You're able to walk in and go to a different aisle. And no offense to the guys that came in here and played their asses off for the Falcons to really overachieve for what was one of the worst rosters in football the last 2 years. There's been some guys that did some really good work. They're just not NFL starters. Mm-hmm. So to see them go in and do that and be able to go out and get guys like David Onyemata, Jesse Bates, and then and to me, one of the more impressive signings was then you can go get a guy like Calais Campbell who says, I like what they're doing down in Atlanta. I want to be part of that. Because he could have gone anywhere. It wasn't just hey, this is the best contract that was available. This was, I want to be part of that project. I want to be part of this city. I want to be an Atlanta Falcon. And that is, to a person who's been in Atlanta and around Atlanta sports for a long time, that's good news.
Because we don't usually get that. It's been hard for us to get defensive playmakers to come to Atlanta. It's been easy for offense.
Terry, the last time I remember somebody saying, I want to come to Atlanta because of the Atlanta Falcons that was a difference maker type was Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez left the Kansas City Chiefs because he felt they had topped out. And he says, I think this is a team on the rise and can go win a Super Bowl. And I want to go play with them. And they came close. They won. I think the farthest they went with Tony G was
division championship.
Was the NFC championship game. Yeah, but, he was really good, really, really good in Atlanta when he was there.
all 4 years. He helped Julio, Roddy White take their game to the next level. Even Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan showed consideration and basically said, I appreciate Tony coming to make my career go to the next level. One person that you're forgetting, though, 2016, Alex Mack. Each time we've gotten those type of players, it's taking us to the next level. Can Calais Campbell be that type of piece that can maybe take us to the playoffs?
I'm not forgetting free agents. I'm just thinking of guys who said basically, I want to come there because of the project, not because of the contract. You know what I mean?
Okay,
And that's the guy. I mean, Jesse Bates wanted to be an Atlanta Falcon, but he also got paid really, really well. Calais Campbell probably could have gotten similar money at a bunch of different places, maybe even gotten a little more money at a different place. But he said, I want to be part of this. To me, that's the difference that I was speaking of. You know, David Onyemata, he got a nice contract, familiarity with his defensive coordinator. Caden Ellis, another good contract. But Calais Campbell is a little bit different category for me, and an established veteran on the back end of his career. I mean, the New England Patriots have made a living and won a bunch of Super Bowls with guys like that. I'll take a little bit less money to go be part of that project.
And let's be honest, I'm sure Grady Jarrett was able to help with the David Onyemata signing because we had somebody that's already stable and can be a 3 or 2 technique D tackle. So when you add David Onyemata, I know you've seen him in the training camp in the video, how he pushed my man all the way back there. He has that strength to take it to the next level as far as that front four, man. Jesus Christ. But how do you feel about the free agent signings, though? With Bud Dupree, you said something about Calais Campbell, right, Bud Dupree, David Onyemata. How do you feel about them?
They're all upgrades. You know, that's the part of it. You go, the one guy I think they're still missing, and they've been missing for, well, pretty much since this franchise was founded, is that dominant edge rusher. You know, but just going back the last couple of years with Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, it just hasn't worked out. They're not easy to get. They're probably harder to get than a franchise quarterback, for goodness sakes. But you're talking number 4 overall pick in their first. They took Kyle Pitts. There wasn't really that edge there because even then, Micah Parsons is being considered an inside linebacker. Maybe he can play some edge. Nobody, if people knew what Micah Parsons was going to become, he wouldn't have lasted as long as he did. Let's be real. The next year comes around, there wasn't that edge guy at all. You know, so you take Kyle Pitts. I mean, I'm sorry, you take Drake London. This year, maybe Lucas Van Ness, maybe
Tyree Wilson,
but the Falcons really are in kind of a must-win situation now when you're in year 3 of a project, and they went out and got arguably the best player in the draft. Okay, I can live with that.
And then if you look at Bijan, man, hell of a player. 2021 stats, 195 carries, over 15 touchdowns. The year before that, over 20 touchdowns. This guy averages over 6 yards a carry. And if you watched him, well, I've watched him training camp. I was there Tuesday for my birthday. Footwork.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate you. Footwork, 3 down back, great vision, finishes runs. I noticed that a lot. Even in practice, even if he getting touched, he's still running all the way to the end zone and looking back to see where everybody is, to see how I'm going to score these touchdowns moving forward, man. Bijan is phenomenal.
The 2 hardest positions to really scout in situations that we've been watching are running backs and linebackers, because unless you are being hit or hitting, it's really hard to get an idea of what you've got. So a lot of times the guys that stand out in those situations are the super cat quick guys, the ones that aren't getting hit, the ones that can make a guy move. But then you're like, okay, what happens when the pads come on? This is different, Terry. What happens when the pads come on is 220 pounds of wrecking ball starts coming at you, and this guy's breaking tackles. So the fact that he is able to stand out in a 7-on-7 type of environment where they're not really hitting because he's so freaking quick, and then he's going to have the ability to break through tackles and do all these things. There's a reason why he was the number 8 overall pick in an era when the running back position is declining or becoming less valuable. Playmaker, man, forget the running back name, you know, position running back. His position is playmaker, and he's going to be it wouldn't have been my pick more than likely, but it's real easy to get behind Bijan Robinson as that pick for the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't hard to justify at all.
And one thing I saw from Bijan with Arthur Smith, I noticed Arthur Smith kept saying pointless, positionless football. Then I see Terry Fontenot follow up positionless football. Then look at the drafts. Kyle Pitts, what he can do, tight end and outside, can play slot. You go get Drake. Drake can play slot. Drake can play outside. Then you go add Bijan Robinson. He's another Flash 2.0, Cordell Patterson. He can be Cordell Patterson before Cordell Patterson was that in his first couple years, because the way Arthur Smith has him in this offense. I want to ask you though, did you see Bijan versus Troy Anderson and Caden Ellis, and how do you feel about the linebacking core? Do you feel like there still might be a weakness when it comes into pass coverage? I trust Troy. It's about more so about Caden when it comes to pass.
If I put a plus NFL running back against a linebacker in a situation where he's got no pass rush, no defensive line help, no safety behind him, no linebacker on the side, basically, and I've got to cover the entire field, if that running back doesn't run him into the ground and make it catch, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I said this, as crazy as it's going to sound, I'm an old dude. You put me in that situation, I could probably catch a pass against an NFL linebacker. All I got to do is one head fake and turn, and an NFL quarterback is going to put it on me. I mean, I'm not, now that he's going to kill me, I'm not going to be able to get away from him, and he's going to put me in the ground, and it's going to be all over, and I'm going to be done for, the rest of my life. But an NFL player, the seventh wide receiver, I think there's 12 wide receivers on the team. The 12th wide receiver out there should be able to spin Troy Anderson in a circle in that situation. So, no. Who out there in linebackers is covering Bijan Robinson in a field when I've got the entire field behind me? Who?
Nobody.
That's not what
not consistent.
Covering Travis Kelce, George Kittle, an average tight end at linebacker, one-on-ones, consistently, nobody. No. Those 7v7s, not 7v7s quite as much, but the 1v1s are so skewed towards the offense that if you can get anybody that can even be close in coverage, you got something. So, case in point, Clark Phillips gets highlighted by Drake London because Drake London's big and goes over the top of him. You know what I saw? I saw Clark Phillips in perfect position to make a play. I got something in Clark Phillips. I don't care that a 6'5" receiver in a 1v1 was able to go up over and get him. Great. Good for Drake London. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Clark Phillips being in that spot, in that situation, in place to make a play for a rookie. That's exciting.
And he's been there. If you're watching camp, Clark Phillips has been a highlight reel as far as getting interceptions, pick six versus Logan. Even the first day, he was able to get the interception on Drake. The way he was able to keep his eyes on the ball, even at I batted the ball up. Let's look for INT. And a lot of times on our defense, we've been missing that since Deion Jones. For a person that whenever the defense line bats the ball in the air or the corner deflects the ball, somebody is roaming around to get the INT. That's what you need from the linebacking core. And Troy Anderson can bring that. Let's be realistic, guys. Troy is running all over the field. He has a QB mindset with a linebacker body.
I'm more interested in what goes on in front of the linebacker than what goes on behind them. So, okay, if Bijan gets if the running back catches a pass in the backfield, that's it. Just limit the yards after catch. Do not let a 3-yard gain become a 10-yard gain. That's it. That's all I'm looking for out of my linebacker in that type of scenario. Now, with the athleticism you're bringing in with Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson, I want to turn them loose every once in a while. I want to. They should be able to get to the edge, and instead of a sweep turning up and going 8 yards up the field, maybe I can get him before he gets his shoulders turned up field, and in that play, that's what I'm interested in. I'm not worried about linebackers turning and running downfield. If you're in that situation, you're in a bad way. You're in trouble. If you got linebackers turning and running downfield with skilled players, you're in trouble.
Unless it's cover 2, and if you don't got Brian Urlacher or Lance Brigg from back in the day, I don't think you want to.
Even then, those guys made their names going forward. Also.
Yeah.
But those guys made their names going forward.
Yeah, especially Lance. Lance used to come downfield and tackle everybody, anybody moving. But let's get to the offense, man. How do you feel about Desmond Ridder? Do you feel like Desmond Ridder is improving in year 2? Because I noticed a lot. They haven't really did too much deep throws down the field. He's been completing a lot in short and intermediate routes. But how do we expect him to take his game to the next level as far as the accuracy down the field?
Relatively speaking, I think his accuracy is going to be a lot better than what we saw for 13 games last year down the
Mm-hmm.
field. I think he's an improvement in the passing game for a team that won 7 games last year. I think, you want to use the term game manager. All you need is average from Desmond Ridder. The team that's been put around him on offense is good. It's really good. The offensive line is solid. Arthur Smith knows how to take advantage of the running game. Stay healthy. Kyle Pitts is out there. Desmond Ridder didn't even get to play with Kyle Pitts last year. With Kyle Pitts, Drake London, you line up in a 4 wide. Okay, 2 minutes left, Terry. I have to pass the ball, and I line up, and I go Bijan in the slot. I go Cordero Patterson in the slot. I go Tyler Algier behind me. Kyle Pitts, Drake London out wide in a 4 wide with a single back formation. Desmond Ridder at quarterback. I feel all right. I do. I feel all right.
So do you think maybe Jono Smith might be flying under the radar? Because that's another guy that can play inside and out as well in those 2-minute offenses. And one thing I like about Desmond, I feel like Desmond improves as the game goes on along. That first game versus the Saints, he struggled a little bit, but as that fourth quarter came, that clutch gene came involved, and they had a chance to win that if Drake London didn't fumble on that fourth down catch.
Well, he got better all 4 games.
Yeah.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
rookie quarterback struggles in his first start against Baltimore Ravens. Duh. There's a shocking headline for you. And then he improved. The annoyance with me is people that are basically asking a question as if it's a question and then answering it like, oh, the Falcons have question mark at quarterback, but he sucks. Well, which is it? Is there a question mark? Yeah, I have questions for Desmond, or we haven't seen it, but I've seen enough to know I want to see more. I've seen enough to know that I don't think he can't play the game. And I think one of the things that's probably most underrated, the kid can fly. I mean,
Yes.
he's a legit 4.5 guy
Mm-hmm.
and can run. Now, is he going to be Anthony Richardson where you're going to build the game early around his ability to run? No, I don't want him to be that. He'll get cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
But if he drops back to pass and you're in man coverage and you see an alley open up, he's gonna tuck it down. He's gonna get 15 before anybody can get to him. That's going to be a weapon the Falcons haven't had in, well, I mean, how long did Matt Ryan play? Since pre-Matt Ryan.
15 years.
15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And even Matt Ryan was smart enough. He could pull it down and
when he
get
wanted
6
to,
yards. Hell, he rushed for a 50-yard gain last year if you saw him rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling doing that. But Mariota's a hell of an athlete. I mean, I'm sorry. Mariota is a good athlete. Desmond Ridder is a hell of an athlete. He's underrated in that regard.
And let's not forget, who did they compare Desmond Ridder to in the draft? The guy
I don't remember. I didn't get into too many comparisons.
It was Marcus. It was Mariota. They compared him to Mariota.
I thought he was a cleaner thrower than Marcus Mariota. Mm-hmm. Marcus Mariota put up some really good passing numbers in a quarterback-friendly offense in Oregon. I watched Mariota in high school. I did not see Ridder in high school. I didn't see him until he was at Cincinnati. I watched Ridder a lot at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he was the cleanest passer of all those guys that were there. That said, the question I got coming out of the Senior Bowl that year, where all the quarterbacks were there, was, what were your thoughts? My initial thought was, I don't want any of these guys in the first round, including Kenny Pickett, who was the only one that went in the first. That said, I took Ridder a lot doing mock drafts with that first pick in the second round for the Falcons. It made a lot of sense. Getting him at third was a steal, absolute steal.
And let's not forget, he was top 4 winningest QBs in college. A lot of people didn't notice that.
Winning's a team stat, though. I mean, this is all-time winningest quarterback at Georgia still David Green. He's probably close. He was at the time. He wasn't necessarily an NFL guy. If I look at all-time winningest guys, I'm going to see some names that never did anything in the NFL. I look at the tools, the makeup, and they're all good enough to play in this league.
But he's a leader. That's one thing he showed me in college. Mm-hmm. He was a leader. He knows how to lead in those late time games. So I'm looking forward to seeing him improve. And like you said, we've improved the weapons around him. So like he didn't have Kyle Pitts, he didn't have Bijan, and now he's going to have a potential top 10 offensive line, a potential 2 targets that can literally get you 1,000 yards if you throw it to him consistently. It's more so on Arthur Smith. Can Arthur Smith take this bottom 30 to 32 passing game to top 15, top 20? That definitely changes the offensive ranks going forward.
Yeah, and Swaggy C has a question. Who's going to be the number 2 back behind Bijan, Flash, or Tyler Algier? That one's easy for me. Tyler Algier is going to get a lot of carries. There was a
Yeah.
question earlier. You showed it, and I want to see if I can find who asked it. I don't remember, but it asked 1750. It was Sean Stassi. Says, quick question, Bijan over or under 1,750 all-purpose yards? I hope under. I really do. And the thing is, though, I've said, could these guys combine for 3,000 between Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier? That would be a hell of a mark. 1,750 and 1,250 would be pretty good. But the reason I want under is because I think for this team to be really as effective as they can be, you're going to have to spread the ball around a little bit more. You're going to have to get Kyle Pitts involved. You're going to have to get Drake London involved. And if it's all about Bijan Robinson, it's a little easier to key on the one guy. So I think you're going to see a lot more efficiency from this offense. I want Cordero Patterson to get 10 to 12 touches a game, 6 carries, 6 catches, somewhere in there. But I think you're still going to see a lot of Tyler Algier, and it'd be a mistake not to use him. He's really good, really, really good.
1,000-yard running, man. And let's be honest, those 4 games Cordell missed, Tyler Algier picked up the pace and act like nothing was wrong. That Browns game, he took that game over in that 3rd and 4th quarter.
I joke, Terry. I said that Arthur Smith at some point in every game hits the F it button. I'm going to run the ball down your throats. He tried. That's the thing is, I see all of these blanket statements. There's a guy spamming my Falcons Facebook page anytime we talk about posting it. Yeah, but Arthur Smith's just going to run the ball. Well, he threw the ball almost 2-1 when Matt Ryan was a quarterback.
He did.
Sometimes your personnel is going to dictate some of the things you do. I am not making any blanket judgments on what Arthur Smith is going to do or not going to do based on the last 2 teams.
Yes.
You had Matt Ryan, who couldn't run at all. Mike Davis was your number 1 running back, and your offensive line was a shambles.
Yes.
They improved a lot in the offensive line, but your thrower was Marcus Mariota, who is inconsistent at best. Now you've got some weapons all across the board. I think we're going to see more balance, Terry. I think we're going to see more efficiency too.
Yeah, so you had brought up about the running backs. Falcons running backs a matchup nightmare for defenses. You talked about Tyler Algier. I talked about Bijan. We haven't really gotten to talk about Flash. Flash is entering a year where he's going to be able to be fresh throughout the 17 games. We've been worried, he's going to miss maybe 4 to 5 games the past 2 years. I don't see him missing games this year due to the committee, running back by committee, and that's what Arthur Smith wants to create. We haven't been able to run the ball like this since 2016, guys.
Last year, if you remember the first game, Damian Williams gets hurt like on his first and only carry for the Atlanta Falcons, and they only rostered 2 running backs. Yep. Oops. Tyler Algier was inactive that game.
He was.
And Cordero had an amazing game because he's an amazing athlete, but he had like 22, 23 carries that game. I'm like, we can't get through a season with Cordero Patterson getting 22 touches because the man doesn't know how to protect himself. He runs everything like his hair's on fire. He runs everything like a kick return, and we love him for it. 10 to 12, please. But when talking about Cordero Patterson, I talk about weapons, the positionless football. I mentioned if I'm lining up 4 wide and I need to get some yardage, Bijan Robinson's in a slot, Cordero Patterson's in a slot. Those I consider Cordero Patterson one of your top 5 playmakers on this team.
Definitely, without question. He can take a screen and go 20 yards easily. And when you have both of them at the slot, that spreads the defense out. Who's going to go out there to guard them? Is it going to be linebackers? Is it going to be safeties? And if you do take the linebackers out of there, all I gotta do is hand the ball off to Tyler Algier, and he's gonna get 5 to 10 yards.
I was speaking of the person spamming everything about Arthur Smith. All he does is run the ball. And Bruce is here. Bruce, it's good to see you. He doesn't just run the ball. Ran the ball a lot last year because Marcus Mariota was your quarterback, and your 2 receivers was Kyle Pitts, who was triple teamed, and a rookie. As things opened up, things changed. He threw the ball, like I said, 2-1 with Matt Ryan on his quarterback. Last year, you ran the ball. Like I said, he hit the F it button every game. Try to move the ball through the air and a couple 3-and-outs and Marcus Mariota not moving it. And he says, man, we got to run the ball.
Yes.
So I'm not making any blanket judgments on how this offense is going to be run based on what I've seen the last 2 years, because the personnel is so much better this year.
It is. I agree with you. So let's get into the receivers. Drake and Mac wideout combo. I've been seeing Mac has been making a lot of plays. He's a big body receiver. He also fits well into Arthur Smith's scheme. He kind of was what we wanted with Brian Edwards, but it didn't happen that way, so we had to let him go. Mac looks strong out there, man. Those cuts, those comeback routes, those curl routes. It's gonna be hard to tackle these receivers in open space.
Hell, you start watching the guys, and one of the names I always see popping up when I was like, oh, that kid just made a play. Another one was Xavier Malone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if he's going to make this roster. I see JJ Arcega-Whiteside out there. The man is a unit.
Yeah.
He's 6'2", 235 pounds. And then Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller out there making plays all over the place. Consider Kyle Pitts is a number one receiving option, and Drake London, 1A, 1B. Forget tight end, forget wide receiver, whatever. Kyle Pitts is going to be lined up off the line of scrimmage more often than he's going to be lined up as an inline tight end. He's a receiver. The receiving options on this team are starting to look pretty good. And the big question comes down to, I'm not here to tell you that Desmond Ridder is going to be a Pro Bowler. I'm telling you, I'm willing to see more. I've seen enough to know I want to see more. Exactly. And that he can get the ball to these guys. There's this offense. I was still surprised to see it was number 15 in scoring last year. That surprised me. It really did. I was like, really? Number 15. I think this offense can jump up into the top 10 as far as scoring goes. One field goal. They were 21.5 last year. 24.5 puts them in the top 10. One field goal. This team's a field goal better, without a doubt for me.
And let's be honest, that Ravens game, we were in the red zone, I want to say 3 or 4 times, and we didn't score. So I'm imagining that I'm sure
that
I'm saying
that felt like one game. Which game early was that? You're going down and fumble.
Marcus Mariota, week 1, he fumbled back-to-back drives to help the Saints come back in that game. So it's like there's a lot of games we still had chances to win with that mediocre, well, not mediocre, the second and third strings starting on that previous team. Imagine with these players if those 2 to 3 losses can turn into wins. And it's an easier schedule this year.
Yeah, it works the other way too. But yeah, I agree. And one of the big reasons that I think I predicted the team to be like 2-15 last year, because the offensive and defensive lines just scared the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
What a coaching job from the Atlanta Falcons. I can't remember his name. I always have to look it up. But that offensive line was a revelation last year in their improvement. Jake Matthews was steady, did a good job. Eli Wilkinson, a former backup right tackle, comes in at left guard, and not that it would have been really hard to improve on Jalen Mayfield the previous year, but he was good. He was good at left guard. Drew Dahlman wins the job at center and was probably bottom third at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Come Chicago game, I think that was week 11 through the end, he was a plus player at center in the NFL. Right guard, Chris Lindstrom, enough said. Caleb McGarry, we're all basically hoping this guy's been replaced the last 3 years, was good. Caleb McGarry was good last year. So how is this guy starting to, re-sign him, please re-sign him. And then Taquan Graham, I think, was probably, McGarry's the obvious answer for most improved player. Taquan Graham on the other side
definitely
was the most improved defensive player on this team, and him and Grady in there together just helped fortify the line of scrimmage. And then you get Abdullah Anderson, who came in and did a job. They got so much better in the trenches. Well, you fortified that offensive line. The offensive line's good. And now you have brought in not just reinforcements, because that made you feel like you're good enough to begin with. They brought in new troops on the defensive line, where that defensive line now legitimately goes too deep with NFL guys, not just guys that have been cut by the Bears and Titans.
And one thing I want to say about Caleb McGarry is he's definitely improved. The reason why he improved is because Arthur Smith likes to run the football. Caleb McGarry's strength is running. as far as run blocking. He's more better at run blocking than pass blocking. Pass blocking, he has to get that right leg back a little bit farther when we're trying to create that circle for that pocket for the QB. I think he's going to improve in that this year. But let's be honest, Arthur Smith is an offensive lineman. He played offensive lineman, so I know he loves to bring the energy to those guys, and they look a lot better under his tutelage.
Well, if the entire league is going soft, why not go big and strong again? It goes in cycles. Everybody's going, okay, people talk 4-3, 3-4. No. Base defense is now our nickels. That's base. All right, well, if you're going to come out in a nickel on first down, I'm going to run it at you. I'm just going to run it at you. I forgot where I was. I was so frustrating, watching one of these. It was like Green Bay against somebody at the beginning of the year. And it's a 2-minute drill. There's plenty of time to run the ball. And these guys are still out there in their base nickel, giving up 6 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry. Like, if that's all you've got, if that's how you've set up your team, all right, well, we're going to get big and we're going to run it down your throats. But I thought McGarry was an exceptional run blocker, of course. But I kept my eye on him a lot. I kept an eye on him and Drew Dahlman and Wilkinson because I thought those were the weak links across the line. You feel good about Matthews. Lindstrom, he's just fun to watch from a sadistic type of view. The reason why we love football, watching him just go out and just run through people is kind of, you're like, that's why I love football. But McGarry did a good job in pass protection relatively to the year before. I mean, he was a turnstile his previous 3 years and then turned into an adequate run pass blocker last year. So keep going. That's the question. Does he regress back to form, or does he at least stay where he's at and keep going? If so, you're going to be pretty good on the offensive line.
Yeah, so we've all saw Kyle Pitts back out there. I feel like he's back to form on Tuesday. Like he was cutting on the leg perfectly. He dove for a pass. How do we think he can take the next step? A lot of guys are calling him a bust. I don't know where they if they're watching the film or if they saw Marcus Mariota previously. But Kyle Pitts, he literally can take this offense to the next level. So how do you see him adding to Desmond Ridder's game in year 2?
It's hard to call a guy that became only the second tight end ever to break 1,000 yards as a rookie as a bust. Now, has he lived up to expectations? No, but his expectations were through the roof. That doesn't make him a bust. Being out there and having help is going to be one of the biggest things. I broke down people asking, and Julio Jones, we can talk about his lack of availability in the red zone, but was also faced similar treatment, double and triple teams in the red zone, if he was even out there after catching 7 passes for 70 yards to get the Falcons into the red zone to begin with. But Kyle Pitts is going to benefit from having help out there, not having to face triple teams. One of the plays I was mentioning, they were playing against the 49ers. This is 2021. This is Pitts' rookie season. And going against the 49ers stuffed the run, so it's 2nd and goal from like the 6, and then it's 3rd and goal from the 6. They dropped 9 guys into coverage. They triple team Kyle Pitts. The 2 defensive tackles dropped straight back into a zone coverage to cover the underneath, and they rushed their 2 edges, Bosa, and I don't remember who the other one was, and they got there.
Oh yeah,
it was Matt Ryan was quarterback. They knocked Matt Ryan down with a 2-man rush in the red zone.
Was that Armstead?
I don't think it was Armstead. I would have remembered him because he's probably the best offensive tackle prospect I ever saw in high school. Guy could have been a Hall of Famer on the offensive line, but that's a different story for another time.
But I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the first drive of that game where we they fumbled the kickoff return, and we end up getting it on the goal line. Cordell Patterson looked like he got in there on 2nd and goal. They didn't.
How are you supposed to throw the ball to anybody when I can drop 9 into coverage and I can get pressure with 2-man?
That's impossible.
You can't. So Kyle Pitts is going to have help because you cannot triple team Kyle Pitts anymore. Can't do it. I got Bijan Robinson, I got Cordell Patterson, I got Drake London at least. And Tyler Algier, if you try and drop back and run that defense now, they'll blast it right through you like tissue paper and go right up the gut on you. When I can impose my will on you, when I can run the ball and you know I'm going to run the ball and I can still run the ball, I become a really, really dangerous offense.
Yeah, definitely. And Tyler Algier is waiting for those type of matchups because safeties and linebackers, it's tough to tackle them. But let's get to the defense a little bit. What training camp position battles are you looking forward to? I know it's the slot corner, of course, and then the left guard, depending on when Hennessy comes back. But how do you feel about those two?
That was a big one, was left guard.
Mhm.
And you pencil in Bergeron right away when you take a guy in the second round and you've got an opening at left guard. If Hennessy wins that job, so be it. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't. You didn't necessarily want him to win that job, but if he beats the guy out and he's the better guy because he's made improvements, then so be it. He's still a young guy. I think he's still only 25 years old.
Yes.
You want that to be a competition, though. You don't want it to win by default because somebody gets hurt. On offense, I feel like everything's pretty well set. You know, is Bijan Robinson the starter? Is Tyler Robinson? Is that a camp battle? No, that's not a camp battle. That's they're going to be mixing carries all year long.
Mhm.
For me, I would think edge position, you know, on the edge, and can Taquan Graham force his way into that lineup up front? You know, with David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett there, can Taquan make sure that he's getting his time up front and come back from that injury? But for me, the secondary battles are going to be as interesting as anything. You know, we've got Jeff Okudah penciled in as a number 2 cornerback, and I think he's got it, but he doesn't exactly have the track record. You know, people have been using the B word with him for the last couple of years, and he's got the chance to Caleb McGarry this year, where he can get a 10-figure contract coming off of his rookie deal. And then Richie Grant. You know, I want to see what the safeties can do. You know, Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell, they're pretty much the only sure things in the secondary for me. You know, can Jalen Hawkins push him? That will be a big one. What can DeMarco Helms do? You know, so we'll see. We'll see. I think the secondary battles will probably be the most intense, where we'll see the most rotation.
One thing I like about Jalen, he's definitely improving this year as far as camp. But he can be a lot more play in that big nickel. Like we talked about Ellis sliding into pass rush on the outside blitzing. You can put him at that linebacker to cover tight ends or slot corners coming across the middle because he likes to tackle. He likes to stuff his movement. Ooh, hey, Miles, I knew I liked you, Scott. I knew I liked you, Scott. You know something, don't you? 6'2", big body type
He
corner.
stands out there just by how much bigger he is than everybody else. Just the options that they have out there. And King Richie coming in says, we're forgetting about Clark Phillips. No, we started with Clark Phillips, King Richie. You may have come in just a little bit later, but we started with Clark Phillips. Clark Phillips is someone that anybody that has watched training camp at all is high on. The kid just does nothing but make plays. He's exactly the opposite of Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison is some of the talk we've had in here, has the big school, the 6'5", 275 pounds, the 40-yard dash, all the tools in the world that never quite came together for him, but you bet on upside because he's just an uber athlete. Clark Phillips is not an athlete, relatively speaking. We're talking about NFL defensive backs are probably the most athletic people in the freaking world. So relative to his peers, he's not as good an athlete as most of them out there. He's a better football player. The man just makes plays. An ounce of anticipation is worth 0.2 of a second on the 40. The kid is dripping with football player and instincts, and he's going to see a lot of time, I think.
And he brought that up in his press conference for draft. He was like, I feel like I can play the slot outside. I know how to play zone or man coverage. And if you watch his film, he knows how to read the QB in zone. And that's what we're missing as far as the cornerback position. I like AJ Terrell. I think he knows how to do great pass deflections. I think he's like 1 second away from turning his head the right time to get INTs moving forward. He had a play like that yesterday, actually. Covered the route perfectly, batted the ball in the air. If he turned around a second early, it's a pick six. And that's the plays we need from him and Jeff Okudah moving forward. And I think Clark will help in this secondary with the way his instincts are to read the field and read the QB.
Yeah, and just looking for some of those guys to take the next step. Pamela Johnson coming in, she mentions the diamond in the rough types that are stepping up on both sides of the ball. I mean, how about I think Taquan was a 4th or a 5th, and I'm almost positive Tyler Algier was a 5th.
Yeah.
Those are plus starters right there. If I'm going to use a pick on a return specialist like Avery Williams, he should hit. He did.
Yes.
Avery Williams he led the league in punt return yardage last year. Hopefully he gets healthy and comes back because he's fun to watch. But I think the Falcons drafting has been. I haven't always agreed with the first round picks, but that's okay. I've always said there's an old saying in scouting and coaching. It's not the guys you miss that kill you. Okay, so Falcons needed a quarterback, may have been better off taking Justin Fields. Okay, that's a different show, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get Kyle Pitts and Kyle Pitts can play, you're going to be fine. Kyle Hamilton ended up being the PFF's #1 safety in the NFL last year. Atlanta kid, that's probably who I would have taken in that spot to come be the face of the franchise, knowing how badly the Falcons needed a safety. Drake London can play. It doesn't matter how good Kyle Hamilton was. Drake London can play. And the same thing goes for Bijan Robinson. I probably would have gone for Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Just because positional value and all that type of stuff. We can get into that later too. But Bijan Robinson, all of the early returns are the kid can play. So just keep stacking good football players. You'll be all right.
I'm liking the chat. Hold on. King, Richie, and B-Row RP both said Clark Phillips can give them Brent Grimes type of ball skills, maybe better. That's key because we got to remember Brent Grimes, he was a 5th, 6th undrafted maybe?
Yeah.
And he came in.
I think Brent Grimes, I think they're going to be different types of players. Brent Grimes was a really good corner in coverage. I think Clark Phillips can be more of a freelancer. Clark, I want you to read the game and I want to pick your spot where you think you can go make a play, where he can make more plays instead of just doing his job really well at corner. Don't get me wrong. You make $15 million, $20 million doing your job really well at corner. Exactly. I think Clark Phillips can be the type of player that can have more of an impact on a game as a rover type, a free safety who can go out and come off of his coverage and make plays because he just sees the game so well. It's a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. How do you do that as a corner / defensive back unless you're making plays, changing games?
So that sounds like you want him to be like the Honey Badger. That's what I'm hearing.
I've compared him to.
Okay,
I've compared him to Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu is a player who wasn't going to light up the combine, but by God, you watch a football game, you knew exactly who he was
every time. Like he turned games over, playoffs, Super Bowl, every chance he got.
Plays. But if I put him up his RAS score, it's probably like a 7 at best. His relative athletic score, he wasn't the best athlete on the field ever. He was just the best football player on the field. Guess which one I'd rather have?
Yeah, definitely. I saw a question in the chat. They asked about the 4th or 5th receiver we potentially can keep. We know who the 3 may be, but who do you think the 4th and 5th potential receivers that can possibly stay with the team?
I think it's interesting from a camp battle, and it's certainly interesting to them, who's going to have a job. But it's not overly interesting to me because I think the 4th and 5th wide receiver on this team is going to be so far down the line in touches that it doesn't really matter. Other than special teams. They better be able to play special teams because for me, if we sort at the end of the year by receptions, you're going to have Drake London. I'm in some sort of order. You're going to have Drake London, Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson, Jonnu Smith. That's 6 guys. And I haven't even gotten to wide receiver 2 yet. Mac Hollins, there's 7. Scotty Miller, there's 8. And I haven't even gotten to wide receiver 4 and 5. So there's 8 guys. And that's why it's interesting to say who's going to get the job. I tell you what, I told you Xavier Malone has looked really good. I think Cordero Hodge could be one of those guys for wide receiver. What's that put him? 4?
Yeah.
I think Cordero Hodge is going to be that guy. And then then it's going to be a special teams decision after that.
Did you say Darby? You already said Frank, didn't you?
I think Darby's in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, we all love Darby. Darby does everything. Does everything with a smile on his face, energy in the room. I hope he makes it, and he'll probably return to the practice squad if he doesn't. But I just think that wide receivers 3, 4, and 5 on this team are going to be receptions 8, 9, and 10 at best.
Hey, Scott, give me a quick second. My oven keeps going off. Give me a quick second. My bad, Vic.
So what are you making for us? We'll see if I can carry around in here. King Richie mentions Josh Ali. Josh Ali's looked really good too. But like I said, and Penny Hart has made plays. If I'm able to cut guys, because you're really only going to keep 5 or 6, probably 5, 6 if he ends up being a punt returner, a kick returner. But if I'm able to cut guys who've had really good camps like Penny Hart, Josh Ali, Xavier Malone, like I said, JJ Arcega-Whiteside looks like a unit out there. If I'm able to cut those guys, I'm in pretty good shape with my offensive playmakers. It's all going to come down to, can this be a good offense? Can this be an elite offense? The pieces are in place that it will ride on the shoulders of Desmond Ridder to see just how far this offense can go, I believe.
Yeah, my thing about Frank and Felipe Franks, I feel like they're training camp heroes. I don't really see them make enough plays in the preseason, so it's gonna be tough to see if they're gonna make the team. Man, I think Frank just had a great catch yesterday and a couple days ago before that. But hey, can you do it during the game? I have to see it, and I haven't seen that consistently. I've only seen it during training camp and practice squad. So I don't know about Darby.
Keith Niswet says, Darby is an Arthur Smith guy. Darby's an everybody guy. I mean,
yeah, he's cool.
He was down at the Senior Bowl dancing. He hasn't stopped dancing. That's just who he is. I don't think he gets cut. I thought he got cut last year.
Yeah.
I thought he got cut last year because remember, in order to be on the practice squad, you have to be cut first. Mm-hmm. So you go from 90 to 53, everybody gets cut, and then you have to re-sign somebody to the practice squad. So I thought Darby got cut last year. And that's how he ended up on the practice squad because he wasn't always active. It's going to be tough. It is. And we're all rooting for Frank Darby. I mean, we should all go through at our jobs as happy as he is doing his.
Yeah, Frank is definitely entertaining. Watching them doing training camp, he's fun to watch. A joy, gets the receivers up. But hey, we have other playmakers, and we have to fill those positions the best way we can. Turbo Duran, let's see what you got to say. Falcons are not winning the division. I have the Saints winning the division. How do you feel about the division, though? I feel like the division has gotten easier over the years. Derek Carr did come to the Saints. Baker Mayfield can potentially be the starter for the Bucs, and then we have the young Bryce Young. So, what do you see with this division? Do you see it still being like a division that's going to compete, or it might be just a 2-team type race?
It's open, but I think the division's going to be competitive. That doesn't mean it's going to be good. Last year it was competitive. All 4 teams were within 1 game of winning it. It was competitive. It wasn't very good. But that's the way the NFL wants it. They want to have bad football teams thinking that they're got a chance at the playoffs, because if you got a chance in the playoffs, then you got a chance to win it all. Whatever, man. I mean, you knew watching. You're only a game out of a playoff spot. You're 4-6. You stink. So could the Saints win this division? Absolutely. I think anybody could. I like the Falcons' chances right now. I'm most familiar with them. Just knowing that they were just how much they overachieved last year and how much better, my God, how much better they've gotten in this offseason on paper. That puts a lot of onus on Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith has overachieved 2 years in a row. Now, can he take legitimate NFL players with big contracts and turn them into a unit that's going to win football games instead of just guys who are fighting for their NFL lives? Those guys played hard for him. Those guys were playing for a job every single week because they didn't have one before the Falcons gave them one.
That's a great point, man. Everybody in the chat, go ahead and put on your questions and answers so we can go your questions, and we'll go ahead and give you the answers that we have. What do you see the record being, Scott? I know you did like a record prediction maybe once or twice. How do you see it coming along?
I think going in, I look at it and I think I've got 10-7 right now. I think the floor on this team is 7-10 would be the
Mhm.
absolute. It's like worst case, not worst case, but realistic worst cases could go from 7-10 to 12-5. So I kind of went in the middle and said 10-7.
Yeah, I had 10-7 or 11-6. I think the Jets and Lions games and also the Jaguar game will be the toughest 3 games for us, and then maybe one of the Saints games.
Yeah, the division games are always tough. So you're hoping to at least get it, at least get a split. You need to win that first one against Carolina at
Definitely.
home. Rookie coach, rookie quarterback, not rookie coach, but new coach for them. Quarterback making his first start, and the Panthers were weird. The Panthers look like world beaters one week and then look like they just didn't give an F another week.
They did.
And that's how you end up losing your coach. They'll come out tough, but again, that's a home game against a team making a debut. You need to win that game.
Most definitely. I'm looking forward to that game. I will be there. Derek Brown has been a tough person to stop versus our offensive line. So I'm looking for Chris Lindstrom and Drew Dahlman to take this over a little bit better. Drew, you got to help. Chris can't do everything when it comes to that big guy, man. You have to help. I'm anxious to see how their linebackers will be able to guard our running backs. Scott Thompson has been there for years. He's good in zone coverage, but he's not good at actually guarding man coverage. They do have a good secondary with Chin and Horn coming back. I can't remember who's their other corner at this moment, but they have a good secondary that can compete. I can tell you that. And Horn has had some good matchups versus Pitts. So I'm anxious to see how that's going to be. Like, will they line up Horn versus Pitts, or will they line up Horn versus Drake? Whatever they do, we're gonna attack the other person, though. I can tell. But a quick question, Ken had asked, how do you feel about play calling this year? I think Arthur Smith can start to open up his real playbook with Ridder.
I agree. Again, I think Arthur Smith acknowledged the fact that says if Matt Ryan were to come back in here and he was just here a year ago, he wouldn't recognize a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And again, I think he's a good enough offensive coach they were just trying to survive last year. That roster was just dreadful. I mean, it just was dreadful. You're talking about $80 million, $80+ million in dead cap money. I think I started looking at it, Terry, and it was something like there were only like 5 players making like $7 million or more on the Falcons last year, and $80 million of dead cap money. I could have added 11 more $7 million players and more than doubled, almost tripled how many I had. You think that would have made a difference on that roster?
Heck yeah, and that's all Julio and Matt Ryan's contracts.
Yeah,
right?
and a little bit of Dion and a little bit of was it Fowler? They had to eat some Dante Fowler money. There was some bad things going on, but yeah, it was criminal. I mean, if I had thrown away that much money of Arthur Blank's money that Thomas Dimitroff did and wasted it, man, there'd be a sheriff at my door.
Steven Jackson, Jesus Christ, he wasted money on a lot of people. He had, I want to say, his best years as far
I'm
as
not even talking about missing Terry. I'm talking about dead money.
Oh yeah. After the fact, yeah.
I'm just like, okay, so I gave this guy a contract and he wasn't very good. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about I gave Matt Ryan $100 million and I'm paying him 40 to play for the Colts.
If we had to eat it,
you had to. So $80 million of money was going to players who were not on the team.
Yeah,
that's not even like missing. Okay, I drafted a guy and I missed. Okay, that's understandable. That happens. But it was $85 million, and then after IR, it was something like $100 million not on the field. It's only a $200 million cap. You're playing with 50% of a roster.
Yeah,
you won 7 games. We're pretty competitive in almost all of them.
Yeah,
and people want to get on Arthur Smith. Are you kidding me? Come on, man.
Besides that Bengals game, and that was the game AJ Terrell went down. We had a bunch of injuries. We had Armstrong starting versus Chase and Boyd. Like, come on, it's gonna be a tough game. But they showed me resilience with this team, with the staff. They continue to coach and do the best they can and put them in situations to make plays. So I'm happy with the way Arthur Smith and Dean Pease did. All they did was open up the doors for Ryan Neeson to come in to bring his pieces in that he likes, and for Arthur Smith to take his offense to the next level with the pieces he's added. That's great coaching. That's great GM abilities. I'm liking everything they've been doing since Terry and Arthur have came in.
They're going to need a little luck, though. And a little luck is if I hit on a third-round quarterback. Because if they didn't, they're right back into, we've got to find a quarterback because we didn't take one with our top 10 picks, and they're expensive.
Yes.
They are expensive. That was the biggest fear in passing on to Justin Fields, was that was a strong quarterback class. You didn't take one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you hit on one in the third, that's a cheat code with the money that we're talking about. That's a cheat code.
And you're saving. You're saving, and he's building. You're able to get as much information, game film on him as you can before you actually have to pay him.
Yeah, and if he doesn't hit, you're going to have to overspend. Exactly. Going back to the Kyle Hamilton thing. And to be fair, the wide receiver is the same way. Your wide receiver room is one of the cheapest in the NFL, but it's one of the better ones because Kyle Pitts is a draft pick. Drake London's a draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
But to go and try and get a quarterback if you don't have one to draft is expensive. One, they're not usually available in free agency. And two, trying to trade up into the top 5 to get a quarterback is ridiculously expensive. B-Row RP Panthers said Bijan a dark horse to win the Rookie of the Year or a favorite. He's favorite.
Definitely.
But not 1, he's 2. Then you look at other quarterbacks, but if he's not 1, he's 2.
I'm trying to see if there's any other. Okay, here we go. Wasn't it New Orleans' new quarterback benched last year by the Raiders?
Sort of. It kind of went into what happened with Matt Ryan last year, and frankly could happen to Russell Wilson this year. So keep an eye on it. If they hit a certain date or are injured before a certain date, 100% of their contract vests.
Mm-hmm.
So when Matt Ryan got benched, it was a move to make sure that his $30 million guarantee didn't vest because of injury. Derek Carr was still the best quarterback on that team, but they didn't want him anymore.
Yep.
They couldn't afford to keep him in there because if he gets hurt, his entire salary would have vested for this year, which would have been $30, $40 million. Instead, they wanted to make a salary cap move and try and get a different quarterback. So was benched, but that was more of a financial thing, Keith, than a play thing. He was still easily the best quarterback on their roster.
Well, I'm not really worried about Derek Carr. Derek Carr's in a new scheme. We're going to see how he plays in preseason, maybe if we see him a little bit. Derek Carr knows how to get the ball to the open man if he has a line that's going to be able to block. I think his best year is when his line was top 5 in 2016, where he pretty much torched everybody on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at the Saints, though, they don't have that type of offensive line. They have 2 or 3 good offensive line players. They do have Michael Thomas coming back. We'll see how he is. Alvin Kamara is going to be suspended. We don't know how long. So Derek Carr is he's going to be a play and see type of guy, just like Desmond Ridder. So that's why this division is open, and that's why we're saying we have optimism because of that.
Yeah, and some of that kicking the can down the road for the salary cap, some of the bills came due in New Orleans, and they had to make some decisions based on finances that they didn't necessarily make football decisions for. So they lost some players. You think they would have liked to have kept a guy who had 7 sacks in 11 games in Caden Ellis, or David Onyemata, who's been a really good pro for them, who's still in the prime of his career? Couldn't afford to keep those guys because of the salary cap finagling they had done, where eventually those bills come due.
Yeah, Austin Douglas said we haven't talked about Zach Harrison. I think we talked about him a little bit. We touched up on him. He's a 6'7" Ohio State player that's been known to get after the QB. He wasn't able to complete as many sacks, but he had a great rushing ratio as far as QB pressures. And that's what we're looking for as far as the 3-4 technique. I don't know why they have him as a linebacker. I look at him as a 3-4 DN.
That's an edge.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the idea for that. It is easier. I hate some of the newfangled words for old positions, but edge works. He's an edge rusher.
Mm-hmm. Do you see him actually coming into this fold as far as all the pass rushers? Do you think he'll get some PT throughout the season?
The thing, why haven't we talked about Zach Harrison as much? Well, we have. But, I mentioned RAS as far as relative athletic score. Zach Harrison is an 8.71 on that, and his shuttle wasn't great, but not bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's 6'5.5", 275 pounds, and he's a beast of an athlete. It just never came. I think he was a former number 1 overall defensive end coming out of high school. It never really quite came together for him. He never turned into one of the Bosas at Ohio State that he was supposed to be. So if I'm going to miss on a guy, there's an old saying in basketball: if you're going to miss on a 7-footer.
Exactly.
Okay? Well, if I miss, I'm going to miss on this guy that's 6'5", 275 pounds, running 4.6s. And in the third round, that's great value, but he's more of a project. If he can become that guy, then you got another steal there. So I mentioned him because the next guy they took was Clark Phillips, who was a total opposite, who doesn't have the height, weight, speed 40 that you're looking for ideal to fit into your little box. All he does is make plays. So it was very interesting to me, Terry, how they took two guys like that who were polar opposites on that athleticism production scale.
Yeah, but I actually, these past 2 drafts has been pretty good to me. Honestly, we got Troy Anderson in the second round. We got Malone, who also can be potential. He's also a work in progress. So you got 2 edge rushers that can be a work in progress with Harrison and Malone. But how do you feel about AK? Do you think AK can take a next step? He was able to gain about 10 to 15 pounds. He got 2.5 sacks, but he had a lot of pressures that he could have made sacks. He ended up hurting his wrist towards the end of the year, so he wasn't able to contribute like he wanted to, but he has potential to get you 6 to 7 sacks in the season.
I agree. I like him. I think of him more, though, Terry, as a Robin to someone else's Batman one day. I feel like he can be really good, but I still don't know that true dominant, I have to account for this guy on every single play edge rusher is on this team. And that's, to me, the missing piece. That said, Ryan Nielsen brings a multiple pressure package where you could end up with 6 guys with 6 sacks on this team. Instead of one guy getting 15 and really being the guy, you can end up, Grady Jarrett could get 6 to 8 sacks. Onyemata could get 5 or 6. Ellis could get 6 to 8 sacks. Lorenzo Carter could chip in with 4 or 5. Arnold Ebiketie chips in. I'm rushing corners. Jesse Bates comes up from a safety position. Troy Anderson fires up the middle every so often. That I think to see them under 25 sacks again would be a surprise. And for all of our sakes who watch this team on a week in and week out basis, I hope to God it's not that putrid again. Because what do they have? 40 sacks combined the last 2 years. The Eagles had 70 sacks last year. It's almost statistically impossible how bad this pass rush has been.
31 in pressures in 22, 128 total pressures, 22% pressure rate in 22. I had John Abraham on the show, I want to say a couple weeks ago, and he said, I always wanted a defensive line that can give multiple players to have multiple sacks and not just one player having 15 to 20 sacks.
Because go look up the numbers, type in Atlanta Falcons draft ref, bring up the reference page and look up 1998. Just for fun. You're probably not that old. That 1998 team was unreal, and they got pressure with 4 guys. They ran a straight 4-3, and they got pressure with 4 guys, and they were a dangerous defense.
And let's be honest, the 4 people we brought in, David Onyemata, Caden Ellis, Campbell, they combined for like 30 sacks or 22 to 30 sacks. Just
the most any of them had were 7, but 7 times 4 is 28. That's more sacks than the Falcons had last year.
Exactly. So that brings a lot more pressures. That helps Grady Jarrett. He had 6 sacks, but imagine him with other people having it. He don't have to get double team or triple team. One of those games he complained about getting that Lions game a couple years ago. They had 4 people. He couldn't believe it. He was like, "Oh my God, y'all don't get to block nobody else."
That bookmarked. And that's one of the things. What, y'all don't have anybody else to block? No, no, we don't. You're it, Grady. You're it.
But look at this right here. Calais Campbell, 36 tackles, 5.5 sacks. David Onyemata, 5 sacks. Ellis, 7. Dupree had 4. So that's key for me, man. That means they're bringing added pressures, added sacks to this team to potentially make it a better defense moving forward.
I'd forgotten. They just signed somebody last week who had 5 sacks. I can't remember who it was. I'd have to look it back up. Who had 5 sacks on like 250 snaps. Former Colts player, I believe. And if I think Lorenzo, he had the same amount as Lorenzo Carter. Lorenzo Carter had 3 times the snaps. So yeah. It was again, I use the word, especially talking about Steven Means, who hit the quarterback twice all season on 14 starts. That's almost impossible. It's statistically not just improbable, it's impossible. Somebody over the course of 4 months doesn't blow an assignment and I get a free shot at the quarterback.
Was it Toure who we signed? Is that who you're talking about?
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. I think he had 5 sacks. He had about 250 snaps. I mean, that guy would have been a marquee signing 2 years ago for the Falcons. And now he might not make the team.
Yeah. Hey, but I appreciate you as always joining me, Scott. Is there any questions you have for me? Also, shout out your pages so we can get some people to follow you as well, my brother.
Yeah, just hit YouTube. The best way to help me out is follow me on YouTube. Just youtube.com/Scott Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Hit that subscribe button to follow and come join the conversation. We're out there in the morning, and Terry's going to come join me soon.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know. Are you going to be at the meet and greet on August 19th?
I think so. Got an invite for that. It sounds good.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to be able to meet in person. Hopefully we'll have some dialogue and maybe cut the camera on and do a little film with everybody there as well. So I appreciate you joining me as always, Scott, and I can't wait to join your podcast whenever you're ready. I'll be free.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you being here. And why don't you drop your link into the all chat and make sure you hit everybody so they can check out Twisted Torch TV also.
Okay, I got you, man. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, man, it's definitely getting good out here, man.
Mine says we're still live. Are we talking to people still?
Oh, I thought you were gonna drop off. That's my bad.
No, I can. If you want to boot.
My bad, man. I do it like a little 5-minute talk with everybody before we end it. Appreciate you guys joining me, man. Appreciate Scott joining me as well. Scott is a guru, man. You see him. That's why I call him the scout, draft scout guru Kennedy, because he's ready to talk that live Falcons content, man. So appreciate all y'all joining me. I know I gave y'all a good lunch show. This is a good lunch show, guys. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep your boys in the algorithm. Bro, it wasn't meant to be like that. He didn't know I'd be. My bad, man. It wasn't meant to be like that. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel, keep your boy in the algorithm. I will be joining Scott's platform soon, so make sure y'all stay in tune for that. Subscribe to his channel as well, to all my Twisted Torch promoters, supporters, all that, the whole shebang. Shouts out to y'all, man. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the Twisted Torch TV website. I just did 3 articles, so they will be posting soon. Don't worry about that. What was in the oven? Man, I got some fries in the oven, man. I had to eat. I got to eat after I get done, man. I went to the gym. Your boy, right? You see the birch. You see the birch, too. Yeah, the birch is good. We good with the birch, man. Check out the birch, man. Twisted Torch TV with the snaps. You see the snap. You see the green on it. Yeah. It's different. We here. What's in the oven, though? He sound like y'all are crazy, man. This was great. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you as always. If all the Scott Kennedy supporters, make sure y'all subscribe to my channel as always. I just did some content with Big Loeb and Smitty, so check that out as well. I'm too hungry, bro. I'm trying to see what I'm eating. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm hungry. I gotta eat something, man. The gym got me fully hungry. Fournette said the prior team served as culture builders, stats or not. Yeah, I agree, man. Terry Fontenot knows what he's doing, bro. We're going to continue to build. We're going to continue to add the players we need to make this team better, and that's what they're showing. Kyle Pitts 1 year, Drake London next year, Bijan Robinson. I ain't going to lie to y'all. Check out my page, because I honestly stated all 3 of those people were going to be the picks. Let's be realistic. All 3 of us, I stated was going to be the picks, so make sure y'all watch out for that. Okay, hold on, Brian. Hold on. Hey, you can't be just giving out stuff like that now, Brian. You can't be doing that, player. But we will be having a giveaway. Maybe the Panthers and Packers game. So make sure y'all lock in. Make sure y'all keep supporting, leaving comments. Let me know about the giveaway. Support me on social media. The biggest supporter will be put in the hat, and they will get chances to win those tickets, man. So shouts out to y'all. Hey, the birthday was Tuesday. You see it, the legend. Happy birthday. I gotta make some more, bro. I gotta make some more. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you as always, bro. Appreciate all the supporters, man. Great show. You know how we get it, man. I'm just trying to. I'm off, so I said let me get y'all some content. So that's all I'm trying to do. Just get y'all the content and let y'all do what y'all do with the content while y'all at work. Because I know I'll be watching content while I'm at work. Respectfully. Jump at TwistedTorchTV. Peace.